The Xbox Series X is now 1 year old, and today we're going to talk about it. And we're going to talk about if it lived up to the hype, and how good is it exactly. But first up, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and share. It really helps the channel out. So the Xbox Series X was announced during the Game Awards of 2019. And then they did their whole marketing thing, got the console out during 2020, which was arguably the worst year in general to release hardware, given the place everyone was at. But they did it, and frankly they did a fantastic job, and the software and hardware teams over there deserve every little bit of credit because, again, they got a console out during a pandemic. Now, we're going to go over all the aspects of the console, games, hardware, features, but first up, we're going to talk about hardware quickly, because this is the easiest one to talk about. It's a very simple rectangular shape with vents on the top and an intake on the back, and it just looks good. It stands out in the sense where it's eye-catching when it's just by itself, but when it's with other entertainment tech, it just fades into the background, and you're not really meant to notice it. Also, it's whisper quiet, which I love because you can't hear the thing, and sometimes it's hard to tell if the console's even on. Now let's talk about some features. We have to start with Quick Resume. So Quick Resume lets you suspend multiple games at the same time, meaning that if you want to hop back and forth between a few different games, you don't have to deal with any initial load times. So other than the splash screen telling you what game you're going to play, there's no loading, and it's almost instant, and it's so cool. And in some instances, people have noticed that you can have up to 10 titles. So given that most games actually support this feature, you can hop back and forth between 10 different titles and have to deal with 0 initial loads, which is really cool, and it's the feature I didn't expect to enjoy the most, yet it's awesome. It really is. Now when it comes to loading times, the SSD is super fast. And considering we can have backwards compatible games, I've tested a few. So let's look at Lost Odyssey on Xbox 360. Saves take 2 seconds to load, which is crazy. Next up, we have to talk about the Mass Effect series. So Legendary Edition running off the SSD can load complete new sections and new areas in just a few seconds. So loading a new different star system and going to the Citadel from a different star system takes a couple of seconds. So once you get past the initial cutscene and then selecting which characters you want, it's almost instant. And it's so cool because after someone that's played these games for years, these are almost non-existent. Now we have to talk about loading on the Normandy. So changing between floors on the Normandy could sometimes take up to 30 seconds, depending on what was going on. Well, in Legendary Edition on the SSD, loads within 2 seconds. It loads so fast that the loading screen can't finish its animation. Now let's go to the original Mass Effect in Legendary Edition with the elevator rides. Now these were pretty legendary because of how long they used to take, but now you get a button prompt telling you when the loading's finished, and you go all the way to the top or bottom or wherever you want to go. Loading has gone from about 45 seconds to about 3.5, depending on what's going on, but honestly, so cool that it's these short now. So short. Now let's talk about loading in Xbox Series games. Now, Assassin's Creed Valhalla is an absolutely massive game. It really is. It's beyond massive. Now, loading to different parts of a map in Assassin's Creed games can sometimes take quite a while. But in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, from the SSD, takes about 5 seconds to load to a different part of the map. It also takes around about the same time to load a completely new region, which is kind of ridiculous considering the last generation had load times up to 3 minutes long. So, well done. Honestly, the software teams, what they've done with these, consoles. Now we have to talk about backwards compatibility features. The Xbox Series X and S, they can both do auto HDR, even on Xbox 360 and OG Xbox games. So things like Enslaved Odyssey to the West, with all of its bright greens, blues and oranges, really pops now. So if you have a HDR enabled TV, play one of these games. They look absolutely gorgeous, and there's a huge list of titles that now support this feature. Now when it comes to other features, we have frames per second boost, FPS boost. There's a lot of games that support this right now. So Mad Max from the Xbox One generation was 30 frames. Now it's 60 or 120 depending on what display you have. And honestly, this game looks fantastic at 60 frames per second, because during last generation, a lot of games were locked at 30. Now we have to look at a different type of game, and I think that game would be kind of obvious: Prey. Prey is an immersive sim horror FPS, but at 60 frames per second, it just plays a lot smoother now, and it's so awesome. And it completely changes how this game plays. Your reaction time to seeing mimics in the environment really changes the game, literally. Now, we have this on, I think, around 20 games now, and the list is going to get bigger and bigger over time, but it's really cool to see the backwards compatibility team taking advantage of this. And there are games that are enhanced with 1x enhancements that also support this feature, so you're also getting 4K and 60 frames in some cases. In some games like The Division now goes to 60 frames with its 1x enhancement, which is super cool. So the Xbox Series X has an array of awesome features. Next up, I want to talk about games, mainly performance and visuals. So Gears 5 Hivebusters. This expansion has to be the best looking third person game I have ever played. This game is beautiful. You know, it takes the Gears formula that you love, but now it's set on a tropical island, and it just works, and it's a gorgeous game. Honestly, and with the bosses you encounter and the certain situations you get put in, it really felt unique and fresh for when this came out, and I highly recommend more people play it. Really, this is one of the best looking games to date. Now next up, I want to talk about ray tracing. Now ray tracing looks fantastic. You know, games using light, how light works in real life, looks really good in games. So games like The Medium, and even games like Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, look stunning with ray tracing. So even though before the consoles came out I thought this would be the next gen thing, I don't think that anymore, but I do think it's a really cool feature, and I think games look stunning with it. It's a really awesome feature to have, as long as the performance, you know, takes more priority. Now I have to talk about Flight Simulator. This game renders the entire world in detail, and apparently the accuracy of everything is up to within 8 centimeters, which is absolutely nuts if you think about it, considering you're flying all the way up in the sky where you may not even go near the ground, because you don't have to land in this game. You can just fly if you want. But when it comes to visuals, this has to be arguably one of the best looking games ever made, if not the best looking, and that could be up for debate. But honestly, this game, stunning, absolutely stunning. Now next up, I have to talk about Psychonauts 2. Now this game runs at 4K 60 FPS locked. This is the best performance I've ever had for a platformer. And on Xbox Series X, it's just been a wonderful time. It really is. The visual art style just sticks out and it looks so good. But at 60 frames, the action never misses a beat. Now I have to talk about Forza Horizon 5. This game is probably the magnum opus of visuals at the minute. This game is stunning. It really is. Now, I've been playing this at performance mode, and I have not noticed a single frame dip. When it comes to racing games, you can't get any better than this, and you probably won't until Forza Motorsport 8 comes out. This game has set a new visual standard for console games, and when it comes to racing games, it's going to take a lot to beat this. It really is. But when it comes to the open environment, the lush visuals, and honestly, I've never seen a 3D environment rendered with this much foliage at any given time. It's just impressive. It really is. So, did the Xbox Series X live up to the promise, and did it live up to the hype? Honestly, I'd have to say yes. I'm getting those Xbox One X enhancements that I loved so much. I'm also getting improvements on those games. I have updates for many games. 60 frames per second is the norm now. It really is. I've been looking at my library a lot recently. In every generation, it's just been 30 frames almost across the board. You know, you've had racing games and the occasional FPS that go to 60, but now, on this generation of consoles, it is literally the norm, and it's taken until 2020 to make that a thing. Really. Honestly, playing action games, racing games, RPGs, third-person action adventures, all 60 frames. And if you have a display that can go higher, there are many games that support 120 frames per second. Even on the Xbox Series S, they have a massive list now that support that. You know, these consoles are fantastic. They really are. You have access to multiple generations of games, going all the way back to the original Xbox. You also can carry over your saves from the Xbox 360. Everything was made seamless from the get-go. From setting up the console, to getting out my phone and using the app to set up the console in seconds, to transferring saves, everything has been seamless. And that's the thing when it comes to me as a gamer. I want to put in as little effort as possible to get something to work. And that's the thing about Xbox Series X. I haven't put in any effort. Everything's just worked. You know, honestly, from start to finish, it's been an excellent experience. It really has. Now, it is the 1 year anniversary of the Xbox Series X, and the best is yet